Hello, I'm the Analyst, and I'm here to talk about Hollywood's biggest box office flops. We recently saw the release of Spider-Man Homecoming, marking the franchise's second reboot. How does a franchise have two reboots in under a decade? Simple. Have the prior entry be maligned by audiences as a result of Sony's belief that more villains equals more money. Let me explain. In 2002, Sony released the original Spider-Man, starring Tobey Maguire as the titular web-slinger, and was directed by Sam Raimi. The film was a critical success and would go on to set numerous records at the box office, becoming the first film to debut over $100 million in its opening weekend, ultimately making over $820 million worldwide on a production budget of $139 million. 2 years later, the duo would reteam for Spider-Man 2, which many not only consider to be better than the original, but one of the greatest superhero movies of all time, and would be the only entry to win an Academy Award, though it admittedly made less than the original, with just $783 million on a $200 million budget. Then came 2007's Spider-Man 3, where producer Avi Arad convinced Sam Raimi to shoehorn in fan-favorite villain Venom. The film got mixed to positive reviews from critics and mixed to negative fan reception, with Venom being singled out for criticism. Commercially, it made $890 million worldwide on a $258 million budget, making it the highest grossing entry worldwide, though the lowest grossing domestically. Director Sam Raimi was attached to make a fourth entry, but he dropped out when he felt he couldn't get the film finished in time, that time being May 6th, 2011, to the quality he wanted. As such, Sony decided just to scrap the fourth film and restart from scratch. However, by that point Disney had acquired Marvel, necessitating Sony to negotiate with Disney over the rights. Sony would ultimately keep the film rights and the film revenues, but Disney got the merchandising and the rights for animation, Spider-Man. Sony would reboot the franchise as The Amazing Spider-Man, directed by Mark Webb and featuring the Social Network star Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. How did it turn out? It got generally positive reviews, though not as good as the first two Spider-Man films, and would make just under $758 million worldwide on a $230 million budget, hampered by both fatigue from the previous Spider-Man films and competition from The Dark Knight Rises. And if you heard me at the beginning, we're talking about a flop today, and that would be The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Looking at its gross, it doesn't seem like a flop, with $709 million worldwide. But when you look at leaked Sony documents that reveal the film cost $460 million to produce and market, it's clear this was a major flop. So how did this film do Spider-Man so wrong? You know, I've already done over 20 Analyst videos and almost the exact same thing through them. I'd like to do something different on this one, so I'll instead be discussing the multitude of reasons it sucked rather than just the plot, though admittedly I will be talking about the plot in many of these details. Number 1. Paul Giamatti as the Rhino. Okay, it's normal in superhero films to feature characters in pre-costume parts, i.e. characters that aren't superheroes but still exist. This is usually more helpful with like minor characters or obscure ones, but this doesn't always work. This is one instance where it didn't work, as you could have literally made him an original character and had no legitimate impact on the plot. But why did they put him in? to make a Sinister Six film featuring Spider-Man's immense rogue gallery as part of a cinematic universe, one to rival Marvel's own cinematic universe. But we'll discuss that later. Anyway, he makes his first appearance stealing plutonium from an Oscorp truck. How stupid would a multi-billion-dollar corporation have to be to carry plutonium on trucks in a crowded city? Giamatti is hammy and borderline enjoyable, but his character is useless in the grand scope of the film. Bookends him with him in a giant rhino robot suit, with the film ending during the final fight between him and Spider-Man, but we'll be saving the ending for later on in the video. Number 2. Peter and Gwen's relationship. Admittedly, the chemistry between Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy is the best part of the film, as the two have a spark between them. It's just sad there's nothing around it. The big issue with their relationship, other than Captain Stacy having told Peter to keep Gwen out of this as he died, is that Gwen is applying for a position at Oxford that would ultimately make it next to impossible for the two to be together, and they subsequently have some squabbles about it. In the end, however, after venturing to the subway, Peter decides to go with Gwen to England, leaving New York unprotected from villains. About that, we'll discuss it later on. Or, alternatively, they could try to maintain a long-distance relationship and keep her out of harm's way. Number 3. Chris Cooper. Use him! The film cast Academy Award winner Chris Cooper as Spider-Man's chief enemy, Norman Osborn. And how does it use him? It leaves him bedridden in ugly makeup and almost in shadow, sprouting out exposition to his son Harry about some disease that he has and that it's genetic, before keeling over off screen. What a waste of a character! Did they only have him for one day? You could have had his drive to find a cure last longer in the film, so he wouldn't just die on his deathbed, and could have made him the central antagonist, as a proper Spider-Man film should, and would eventually twist the mind of Electro into working for him. Speaking of, that's our next point.